Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there, welcome back.
Well, this is an all too familiar sign, and just, it's something we've seen for years now. Every year we see this.
Makes me so sad. And I mean, look at the car, and the tires are burnt off of it. How does that happen?
Yeah, intense heat. And we always question that too. Why are those trees still standing at all?
Yeah.
If the fire ravaged through there like that. And this is another Northern California town that burns to ashes in raging wildfire, and this has been the case, for so many years in a row. We see the Oroville Reservoir is at a record low level. California shuts down their second largest hydroelectric plant. And every area that you're going to talk about, everybody's going to have challenges in these times. Mm-hmm. And over in the West, it's going to be wildfire and drought. Could be other things too. Could be volcanoes going off before you know it. And again, we have stayed at a place in New Mexico, maybe about 10 miles away from a known volcano, and we had lava all over one corner of the yard. And I don't think that was, 100,000 years old or 200,000 years old or 1,000,000 years old. I would say I could see that happened in the last couple of thousand years, or maybe even hundreds of years.
To me, easily, because it wasn't even covered in dirt yet.
No, there was no dirt. It felt very fresh. Again, revisionist history. We are not privy to the real history of this planet. That's the bottom line. The Oroville Reservoir reached a record low level of 641.93 feet above mean sea level on August 5th, forcing authorities in California to shut down their second largest hydroelectric plant. This is huge. This was completed back in '67 as we look at pictures to see how things have changed. And, it's just absolutely so sad what's going on. Again, the small farmers are being impacted, small and medium, to such a high level again. And this is out of Turkey. And then there's massive wildfires in Greece. And in Russia, all over. We're having these massive, deadly wildfires. So the ones in Turkey have devastated coastal towns. They've also destroyed the delicate ecosystem of honeybees. As we've been saying, this is an all too perfect, way too perfect, assault on the food supply of the planet. Firefighters getting guns pulled out on them. Some Dixie Fire residents are refusing to evacuate and leave everything they have to the fires, and then to be perhaps picked over by people that are going to be opportunists and go in and say, oh, wow, I could use this, or, oh, I could use that. This is absolutely horrible as people are losing everything. Flames from the Dixie Fire advanced into the town of Greenville, burning an estimated 75% of the homes and businesses in the historic Gold Rush era town of about 1,000 residents. And, we lived in a similar sized town previously when we were out west, and everybody knew everybody. And it was really nice in that sense. But again, when we get into these times, there's certain areas that are going to be very, very hard to make it through. So let's send our prayers and some love and light their way. Starving cows, fallow farms, Arizona drought is among the worst in the country. So you can see it's the whole West really that's getting hit pretty hard. Cotton's gone, alfalfa barely exists. Can you even call this a farm? In our property in Nevada, we were right next to an alfalfa farm, and can imagine, if they don't have water now, that's just all dead.
Oh, in a couple of days, yeah.
Literally, because the temps would get to be 110, 115 regularly. Can you even call this a farm? And everything's just dying out there. 247 acres an hour south of Phoenix. And we have several family members in the Phoenix area, and we're having conversations with them, and they're saying, what do you think? And honestly, it wouldn't be my first choice because, this is part of why we end up leaving the West too. There is no perfect place. Anywhere you go, we're going to have issues. We're going to have wild storms, tornadoes, and hail, throughout, say, Arkansas and southern Missouri, eastern Oklahoma, and northeastern Texas, which is an area we do like. Especially love the Ouachita area and the Ozarks. Those are great, great areas. You're going to have challenges there too, but you do have plenty of water. So that's a positive. The Four Corners area, as we were talking about, Hopi prophecy is supposed to be a safe zone. Especially when, according to the Hopi prophecy, World War III is coming unless we can change our timelines, and it's going to be one of the safe zones yet again. And then there are so many nuclear reactors east of the Mississippi. One of our family members called us when we were on the road, and we were actually east of the Mississippi, and said, "Don't go east of the Mississippi and don't settle there." We almost did settle east of the Mississippi. But anywhere you look, there's going to be challenges. And, again, they're going to blame this on just the usual suspects. And it's just not working as more and more people are waking up. We were having a conversation today with a family member, and we asked him how old he was, or Cindy asked him how old he was, and the number popped in my head right before he even said it. This is what's going on. We used to be able to communicate telepathically. And here we're talking about going back to the Lemurian times. This is where we're heading again. So can you imagine being able to read the politician's mind when he's reading you a speech off a teleprompter and he's saying one thing, but he's thinking something totally different? This is where we are now. There are people that have these abilities, and it's developing. And so, the lies are just not going to hold anymore. And we are given lies every single day, all day long. Across the U.S. West, shifting climate patterns are wreaking havoc. Early start to fire season is scorching rural Oregon, parts of Northern California. Record temperatures have led to the deaths of hundreds of residents of Seattle and Portland. Lake Mead, the massive Colorado River reservoir outside of Vegas, lowest point since 1935 when it was constructed. That's threatening water supplies to Arizona, Southern California, Nevada, and Mexico. This is ginormous. And again, I don't feel comfortable about anywhere between Phoenix and Vegas, honestly.
No, not at all.
And especially Phoenix, when we've had drones that they don't know whose drones they were, scouting and scouring the one nuclear reactor in the whole area. That looks ominous when we have this not so covert warfare breaking out all around us. Yeah, that doesn't sound good to me. So again, everybody has to make their own decision, do their own thing, and listen to your own guides. This is all about graduating to the point where we have that relationship developed with our own guides, our own higher self. It's going to take open chakras all on the spine, and it's going to take especially opened pineal gland and third eye. And I was looking at the results of fluoride test on a whole bunch of different water brands, and even water that you think is good, like that Fijian water, very high in fluoride.
It's like $4 a bottle.
Why do they put fluoride in the bottle? Is it to protect us? They want to protect our teeth. No, that's total, in my opinion, absolute BS. It's about calcifying and keeping your pineal gland calcified. So you can't see them telling the lies. One of the coldest places on Earth is on fire, and this is Russia. And the blazes could pump a record amount of climate warming CO2 into the atmosphere, with wildfires also plaguing California, Turkey, Canada, Greece. We could add on to the list there. And in Siberia, massive amounts of the woods is just going up in flames. 10 million acres in Yakutia this summer. 10 million acres. 10 million acres. That's enormous. How about all the permafrost with the methane? That's way more disruptive than the CO2. By the way, 3 erupting Alaska volcanoes spitting lava or ash clouds. It's going to an all-new level, guys. 3 remote Alaskan volcanoes, various states of eruption as well. And watch this go down into the Pacific Northwest. I would venture to guess before we hit 2025. Extremely heavy rains hit North Korea. We've seen it all over the place, causing rivers to overflow, damaging 170 homes, washing away hundreds of hectares of farmland, destroying roads and bridges, evacuation of 5,000 residents. Again, there you go. It's that we've seen this all over the world, all over the world. And what was the first channel, Evolutionary Energy Arts, we have not been able to post to it because of a strike, because of the material that we posted 3 years ago. Actually, it was pretty much right after number 45 came into office. So they've been scouring through that. But we did have one I remember doing where it was showing people in Japan after the massive Japan floods, I believe in 2017. And, just to give you an idea, that video had like 200,000+ views, where the views now typically get, 2 to 4,000, sometimes 5,000 views. Can we talk about CENSOR
Right.
ship?
And we were looking at them on another website, and then one of those had 24,000 views. One of the ones that we had done live not very long ago, it had 24,000 views on it on somebody else's site.
Yeah, that was like from about a year and a half ago, I'd say. And that was one of the last ones that we did talking about DEA, GEL, and those projections. So at least somebody stole our material, and still it's out there, because that's okay. Yeah, that I don't care that they stole it. We have to wake people up now. We are in fast forward mode. We got to wake up as many as possible. Time is running out for people to prepare. That's the bottom line. So if they took it, stole it, and they're making royalties on it with the commercials, good for them. We don't really care at this point. It's all about being prepared, because if in case people can't see, it really is hitting the fan right now. And talking to another family member in another session today, we're saying, like, right now our objective is not to gather as much tomatoes and peppers and things like that right now. It's more of getting ourselves situated for 6 months from now to a year from now. And yeah, 6 months from now we're going to be in the winter, but we're going to have to grow in the winter. And if that means putting stuff, potting soil into every sort of container we can possibly get, and sticking it around every windowsill we have, which is not too many. I just ordered a couple more grow lamps, even though we have 20 or so, because we're going to have to. This is where we are. The guides are telling us, seriously, if you want to avoid a certain thing, then be prepared to go as long as 3 years, mostly, if not entirely, self-sustaining. This is where we're heading into now. And we see the Farmer's Almanac forecast. So, let's start with Texas, and this also includes New Mexico and Oklahoma, over into Louisiana and Arkansas. Chilled to the bone. Oh boy. So are you telling me that we're going to have more like what we saw with that unusual deep freeze? Well, the guides told us that we're going to have several of those this winter. So be prepared for that. We did buy a very cheap $65 greenhouse, because you can do it. There are cheap greenhouses out there. Now, how is that going to hold up? I don't know. But luckily, our yard is completely kind of surrounded by buildings and structures and fences. So even if there's a strong windstorm out there, there won't be too much in the backyard. And that's what we're banking on. And then we'll try to secure it even more, and we'll try to build, some structure around it to keep it in place. And we're thinking we're going to get one that's bigger, maybe something along the lines of a 20-foot by 10-foot by 7-foot. They look like a wind tunnel, like a semicircle, and try to anchor that next to the man cave, and perhaps build framing around it to hold it in place. We did go to Lowe's, and I was shocked to see that I didn't see the skyrocketing lumber prices.
Right. That was really weird.
It wasn't so bad. I mean, there was 2x4x8s that you could have for $5 each.
Mhm.
And we bought some green wood for kind of a lattice work structure that we're going to end up building around the grapes and around some of the other raspberries and blackberries, as we're up to 21 fruit plants and bushes now. You know, I should say bushes and trees. So we have like 21 of them out back now. And that's about all we're going to be able to fit in this yard. But the rest of the stuff, you know, we're going to have room for maybe 3 to 5 trees in the front yard, and that's optimistic. But we're going to try to get them in there, and then the rest of it's going to be just growing whatever we can, wherever we can, and things we get the most bang for the buck with nutrition with. So out in California in the west, average wintry temperatures, precipitation up in the Pacific Northwest, typical winter temperatures and precipitation. For those of you anywhere from Montana to Wisconsin, Dakotas, down to Colorado, and over into Missouri, numb is the word. Just shoveling along. Oh boy, that sounds pretty ominous there.
Mm-hmm.
Icy and flaky up in Michigan and over towards Ohio and Kentucky and Illinois. And typical winter chills, stormy, January, tranquil, February for the Northeast. And down in the Southeast, quiet, chilly, mixed bag of precipitation. That is your outlook. And Dr. Roger Higgs' letter to John Kerry, global warming and cooling mimics sun's magnetic activity, not CO2. I think it's a waste of your time, your pencil, and your paper, because this is a skull and bonesman. You know, just recognize this. This is, he's part of the PROBLEM. He's not going to solve anything for us.
Mm-hmm.
This is where we need to wake up. They're not, you know, there's our needs, meaning the mass of humanity, and then there's agendas. He's on an agenda. So that's a waste of time. You could show them the true science anytime. Doesn't matter. They'll ignore it, or they'll turn it around and try to use it against us. Curious mission flown over the Baltic Sea by U.S. Air Force nuke sniffing plane. Air Force only has one constant Phoenix jet, which is used to collect air samples that could show evidence of nuclear testing or accidents. Well, we hear that there's a flock of seagulls country. You remember? I ran so far away. Yes. God, I love the 80s. Those one-hit wonders. There's nothing like 80s one-hit wonders. In the comments, guys, anybody's interested, just for ha-has, because we need to laugh more. What's your favorite 1980s one-hit wonder? And I know there's many people that were not born in the 80s, and to me, it's like looking back to the 50s. You know, looking back to the 80s is like when I was growing up, and we'd look back to the 50s and think of that as old-time music. So it could be, there's a lot of things going on. We've actually seen mysterious nuclear emissions that many times we thought came out of some sort of mishap in Russia. Here you can see they're flying over Scandinavia and Northern Europe. But, you know, we were told that the Flying Seagulls country will have the capability to make NUKESs in about 10 weeks. Meanwhile, we have Marjorie Taylor Greene suggesting that Southerners could welcome JB's police state friends with GUNSs. We all love our Second Amendment rights. They might not like the welcome that they get. Can you not see the writing on the war wall? The war wall. You know, we are obviously heading towards a divide, a split, a divorce, a great separation. 1861 all over again, 1914 all over again, 1941 all over again, so to speak, or 1939, depending on where you were. 1941 for the U.S., but Europe, you know, and Poland was where Blitzkrieg first happened. And, you know, Nazi Panzer tanks rolled over cavalry, because that's basically what Poland had, and said it was Polish aggression. Yes, they're charging those tanks with those horses. Can we smell a little BS?
A little bit.
There's a lot of BS that always goes on. Talk about BS. We have billionaires segregating themselves on private luxury islands as ordinary people told they can't travel. Neo-feudalism. Yes, the elite is hiding out from the devastation their policies have caused. And I couldn't believe this was the top line on DRUDGE. You know, it's just more and more right out there. So this is Google co-founder Larry Page. He's hiding out in private islands in Fiji. Word is he actually bought a private island in Fiji. So, you know, he's enjoying life in paradise because he could afford to. He's like the sixth most richest person in the world. And so is he basically suffering? No, he's having a prolonged vacation. And then this is getting into the rental servitude under a system of neo-feudalism that's going to make home ownership completely unaffordable. Meanwhile, Davos billionaires like BG or Gil Bates buying up huge swaths of property. As we had talked about, he's recently become the largest owner of farmland in America. But in terms of individual landowners, Gil Bates is far behind media mogul John C. Malone, has 2.2 million acres of ranches and forests. And then Ted Turner owns 2 million acres of ranch land. And Bezos is investing in land in a large scale, according to Forbes. Perhaps he's investing in some moon or Martian property as well.
I don't know, sometimes this is difficult to cover. It just really irks you.
Doesn't it? And meanwhile, we see Moderna's earnings are pretty good. Yeah, Moderna reported better than expected earnings, says its V is more than 90% effective after 6 months and whatever. You know, the bottom line is they're beating all forecasts. Sales of 4.4 billion are ahead of expectations. Their shares are going through the roof. And there are more people buying islands. Meanwhile, more and more people are getting ready to head to the food lines. Is there not something wrong with this? Is this not the symptom of an absolute sick society, sick system that needs to change? There was a slogan back in France, you know, "Viva la." I can't remember that last word. What was that last word? Well, you know, I don't think that's going to be far off if things keep going this way. There was also a 1980s hard rock song. Let me think, what was that group's name? Well, the title of the song was "Eat the," and the last word rhymed with BITCH. So you could get the idea where we're heading with this. This is, and the thing is, as we were talking again about 80s and 90s music, and I keep going on that, Megadeth had a very big hit, Symphony of Destruction. And that's exactly what this is. It's a symphony. It's been so perfectly orchestrated. The conductor is just one, okay, give me a little wildfire here, give me a flood over here. Uh-oh, hit those crops. Uh-oh, you know, take this away. Uh-oh, add this to the billionaires. It's just so, it's becoming so non-obfuscated, so to speak. And meanwhile, we have rare white fungus detected in brains of recovered CV19 patients in India. Pick your color. It's a rainbow of colors.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, there's fungus popping out everywhere. Everyone would do well at this point in time to maybe do a week, 10 days of anti-fungal dieting, so to speak. Anti-bacterial, basically an anti-inflammatory diet is always recommended, at least at times. But recognize what fungus feeds off of, because we've also gotten that this is part of the next big wave. And there's waves after waves that are coming at us and battering our shores. So it's good to clear up any issues with our, you know, our system and any sort of bacterial overgrowths, which simply, again, eliminating processed foods, eliminating simple sugars. Mysterious floating island hovers over a lake at Glacier Bay National Park in Alaska, and we've seen these floating cities. And is it just a mirage? That's what they tell us. But then I have to wonder too if any of it has to do with any sort of merging of dimensions and dimensional shifts. This, it might just be a mirage.
It could be.
It very well could be. But then we had those floating cities that we keep seeing over in China. Is that a mirage too? Well, how about the empty cities? What are they there for? Lots of thoughts on that. And here we have the Colombian mayor sharing a video of a ghost attack in his office. And just don't want to play it in case we get in trouble for you guys. It looks almost a little orchestrated and comical. But he's just talking about, the forces of darkness that are attacking us. And those forces are very, very real. And they're basically, again, there are all sorts of beings all around us all the time. And some are on other densities. So actually a ton are on other densities. There's more beings on other densities than on our density, as there's layers after layer after layer to our reality. Fasting may be the best way to fight off GI infections. And there you go. Now, intermittent fasting has become the norm for so many people now. And then periodically, if you're able to and your health allows it, doing, say, a 3-day water fast or even a 1-day dry fast can be a benefit. Dry fast's obviously the most severe of them. And, when we realistically look at it, the majority of people might not be healthy enough to do a dry fast. And then some will say, well, that's the reason why to do a dry fast, because you're not healthy and it'll remove the toxins the quickest. Again, I would do things in increments, like starting with a 16-8 intermittent fasting schedule. See how you do with that. 16 hours you're not eating, 8 hours you're eating. Then maybe tweak it to eating in a 6-hour window, and then maybe every so often, one meal a day. One very well-rounded meal a day gives you almost 24 hours of fasting, which is a lot of time to purge. Everybody is unique. Everybody's situation is unique. I would recommend checking out Dr. Mindy Pelz. We've talked about her many times. MindyPelz. She's a great expert on fasting. She's all about fasting, and she is an MD. So do check it out. And we want to thank all of our Patreons for your support. We absolutely could not do it without you guys. And it's wonderful to hear about all the good feedback from Medicinal Foods. Patrons as well, when you use our link, it does help support the channel. Be as prepared as possible, guys, in these times, because we're heading into deeper waters. And may you guys be full of love, light, hope. Don't lose that hope, no matter how big the darkness gets, because ultimately, we are eternal beings having a temporary experience on this 3D realm. You could view it as a virtual reality game of sorts, and it's a test of our mettle.
It is.
God bless and namaste.
Namaste.